Wow. I guess I need to stop refreshing Twitter right now and just go ahead and knock this podcast out. But we are a little over 12 hours into the NBA trade moratorium being lifted, and the NBA has exploded. Welcome back to the Where Is Ja podcast. This is Memphis X, and we're going to talk about the trades that went down today, and we're going to discuss what does Memphis need in the future. Peace.
Where is Ja?
Here is Morant turning on the burners. Oh my! Wow! What a ridiculous finish from Ja Morant.
Where is Ja?
Morant down the lane, lays it up. It is! Holy cow! With 7/10 of a second, Ja Morant.
Where is Ja?
Morant with a running start. Elevate! Oh, it dunks! Oh my goodness! Ja Morant.
All right. Well, if you've been paying attention today, yesterday, actually now, November 16th was the day the moratorium lifted. As expected, we had some trades to go through, some really kind of changed the landscape of the NBA, really changed the landscape of next year's free agent market maybe also. So we got a lot of stuff to discuss. One of the first trades to go down, we'll get the smallest one out the way, was Detroit sending Bruce Brown to the Brooklyn Nets for Zanin Musa and a 2021 second. And honestly, I don't even understand this trade from the Detroit perspective because Bruce Brown has a lot more potential as a player than Musa, even though Musa had a nice little run his rookie year, but last year he was kind of atrocious. So I don't really understand that from Detroit's perspective. But like I said, Detroit's at the beginning of a rebuild, so I don't think trading Bruce Brown for a second is going to make or break them in the long run. One of the first major deals that we had was Chris Paul trade. Chris Paul was traded along with Abdel Nader from the Oklahoma City Thunder to the Phoenix Suns for Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, Ty Jerome, Jalen LeCue, and a 2022 first-round pick with some protections on it. I think it's top 12 and 22, top 10 and 23, top 5 and 24, and unprotected in 25. So that's a pretty good little asset for the Oklahoma City Thunder to add to all the other picks that they have. And they're kind of starting their rebuild off right. They just need some lottery luck in the future. But Chris Paul's fit on the Phoenix Suns should be pretty good if he stays healthy. And like I've always said, if you see on Twitter, I've said that trading for Chris Paul is kind of risky for anybody. I was mainly meaning for Philadelphia and Milwaukee. And that's mainly due to the injury risk and the age. But if you can withstand the injury risk to, Chris Paul, don't have to pay him a lot of minutes. Phoenix did retain their number 10 pick in the 2020 draft, so they can get a quality backup point guard. They had one in the bubble. I forgot his name. I think it's the guy that was from Murray State was the backup point guard, but they kind of get another one. Play him and, have him groom him to take over for Chris Paul in the future in a couple of years when his contract is up. So right now, I would say this is a very good trade for both parties. I really like it for Phoenix because it essentially is not just a trade for Chris Paul. It's a trade for Chris Paul, and they keep the attention of Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton and keep them on board as far as with the franchise, as you don't want them checking out right now. It's been a long time. It's been 10 years since the Suns been in the playoffs. Devin Booker's never been to the playoffs, and I'm pretty sure he's ready to make it. Another trade that was surprising that came down was Houston sent Robert Covington to the Portland Trail Blazers for Trevor Ariza, a 2021st, which is a number 16 pick in tomorrow's draft, and a 2021 first, which is protected. I don't know the protections on it yet, but it seems like a pretty high price to pay for Covington. But it also kind of shows you, depending on the protections on that 21 first, that the 2020 first wasn't really considered a strong draft, especially for teams that really needed immediate help. We kind of fall in love with the draft during the draft season, and players become, bigger than life, or, and then when the season starts, reality hits, and you realize that these players are usually 2 to 3 seasons away from helping, especially on a team that has championship or deep playoff run aspirations. These players are usually not ready to help at all. So Portland, instead of depending on the number 16 pick, they got Robert Covington, a proven performer, a proven veteran performer. He can play small forward or power forward, as that's what he played for Houston last year. He played power forward, so he can sit there and at power forward and help, the Rockets, give them some spacing with his three-point shooting. Give the Blazers some spacing with his three-point shooting. Give Dame a little bit more room to drive. Give CJ a little bit more room to drive. Give Nurkic some room to operate in the middle, and make that pick and roll that they run with Nurk and Dame a little bit more dangerous. Portland's looking good. Portland looks like they're going to try to keep their playoff spot next year. As you can know, the West is kind of ramping up, and the arms race has begun already. With the Lakers picking up Dennis Schroeder, everybody's getting prepared for what's coming on this season. The West is going to be pretty tough. Okay, another surprising trade that happened was the New Orleans Pelicans sending Drew Holiday to the Milwaukee Bucks for Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, 3 first-round picks, and 2 pick swaps. And this kind of hit out of nowhere. And I was kind of thinking that Drew Holiday for Bledsoe would be a decent trade foundation, but I had no idea that Milwaukee would go to this extent to secure his services. This seems like something, a package that would get you, what's the guy's name? Bradley Beal from Washington, 3 first-round picks plus 2 pick swaps. That is a Paul George-like haul for Drew Holiday, who's only made 1 All-Star game. So what are we talking about here? I think he's a good fit with Milwaukee, and whatever they paid is worth it if it gets Giannis to sign the Supermax and and stay in Milwaukee. So whatever price they paid is worth it in the end. It's like what people say when you go to court. It doesn't matter if you're charged with a crime and you go to court. It doesn't matter what your lawyer costs if you get to go home free. So, this is one of those things. As long as they get to keep Giannis, those picks aren't going to be worth anything anyway. So, they won't be worth much anyway. So, I'd rather keep Giannis than those picks. Milwaukee was not through, though. Milwaukee acquired Sacramento's Bogdan Bogdanovic for Dante DiVincenzo, Ersan Ilyasova, and DJ Wilson. So this will be a signing trade that will be executed probably at the end of the week. I'm not sure why Sacramento did this trade at all, unless you really like Dante DiVincenzo, and I haven't really watched him enough to say if he's worth that much or not, but I kind of really doubt that he's worth that much. But, for Milwaukee, this is a no-brainer. Milwaukee gets to add and complete their starting lineup, a very formidable starting lineup with Drew Holiday, Bogdan, Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez. So they got a nice starting 5, bench to be determined, I guess. So where does that leave us really in the league right now? We got James Harden has supposedly requested a trade from Houston. He is looking to get moved specifically to the Brooklyn Nets. And after what Milwaukee has done, if Brooklyn really wants to consider themselves a true contender, they probably got to step up their game and add something. Drew Holiday's off the board. Chris Paul is off the board. I mean, they could probably, I don't know what big would be on the board at this point. I don't know any centers that have been known. Maybe Miles Turner might be available if they want to go that route. But I'm really not sure what else that they can add. James Harden would be a phenomenal add. If they're going to give up Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Allen, some pick swaps, whatever, to get James Harden and create that big three of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, that would be wonderful. Now, what this does is that leaves other teams like Miami, who was counting on, waiting till 2021 to go after Giannis. But if Giannis signs a Supermax, that kind of puts a crimp in their bonnet. So what do they do to get back to the NBA Finals? You got the Boston Celtics, who are sitting here with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and unhappy Gordon Hayward, who supposedly wants to be moved and is mulling, even opting out of his $34 million final year of his contract. Where does that leave them in the grand scheme of things with Milwaukee, loading up? In the Western Conference, you still have, you got the Lakers, the Clippers, the Nuggets. I think those are the surefire playoff teams. I think the Warriors are going to be a surefire playoff team. I think the Suns are going to be a surefire playoff team if Chris Paul stays healthy. The Rockets are probably bowed out. The Thunder, I was going to call them the Sooners. The Thunder are probably bowed out. So you have the Jazz, the Trailblazers, who upgraded. And who else do you have? Is that it? Who am I missing? LA, Warriors, Denver, Jazz, Blazers. I'm missing somebody else. Oh, yeah, the Mavericks. And the Mavericks just reported that Kristaps Porzingis is going to miss the beginning of the season. So who do you got? In the playoffs, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spots. You still got, the Kings probably won't make it now. Well, let's see. The Kings probably won't make it now. The Pelicans are probably out. The Spurs are, we don't know which way they're going to go with LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan, and they have the 11th pick, and the young guys look good in the bubble. Minnesota Timberwolves got Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo, and the number 1 pick. The Pelicans, we don't know how Zion's going to look. We don't know if they're going to keep Bledsoe and George Hill. Memphis, we'll get to that on the other end, but it looks like the Western Conference is going to be pretty tough. And in the East, we got Milwaukee. Looks like they're going to keep their, they were headed for 70 wins last year, and they kind of upgraded their team. Toronto, we don't know what they're going to do with their big men, all free agents. Boston hadn't done anything yet. The Pacers still got Oladipo hanging out there. The Heat are still in good shape. The 76ers got a new coach, new general manager, but haven't made any on-the-court changes. The Nets should be healthy. Magic are not healthy. Charlotte is rumored to be in the hunt for Russell Westbrook, who's also a big name out there. The Wizards should be back healthy, and they have a top 10 pick this year. And then we got the rest of the league. We got the Hawks, who we don't know if they're going to really try to make the playoffs or not. So it looks like it's going to be some competition on both sides of the ledger. So, like I said, we're not even a full 24 hours into the moratorium being lifted, and we got a lot of action. So we're going to see exactly what's going to happen next. But on the other side, we're going to get to what I think the Grizzlies need to be looking for, not only in this draft, but long term. All right, now some other little news that was kind of broken. I think it was on a Low Post podcast. Brian Windhorst kind of, after he was saying that Kristaps Porzingis was going to be out for the start of the season, kind of leaked it out there that Jaren Jackson was also going to be out for the start of the season. And that kind of probably puts a damper on, the Grizzlies' expectations for this year, even though I don't think they were going to do much to really try to push the envelope to make the playoffs. I think this was going to be more of a stabilized and development year anyway. We want to see what Justice Winslow could do. We want to see what Dylan Brooks can do, if he can rebound from his poor finish to last season. See what Ja Morant can do in his second year. See what some other young guys can do, like Jonte Porter, if they bring him back. This is always going to be a development year for the Grizzlies. So Jaren Jackson being out, it's not a real big surprise, especially with the way the Grizzlies like to handle injuries. They're very cautious with injuries. So I expect him to sit out, come back with a minute restriction, maybe not even do back-to-backs. So it could be a while before he's at full strength and able to go 100, which is kind of disappointing because I was looking forward to Jaren having a big year this year, maybe scoring up towards 25 points. If you look back, he was 22 points per game last year per 36 minutes. So him going up to 25 points seems like a lot on its face, but it's really not a lot if he stops fouling and stays on the court 30 to 35 minutes a game. I think he can get up there. But what I wanted to talk about today was, what do I think the Grizzlies need going in the future? And, this is basically going to be like one thing that I think the Grizzlies need. I might talk about a couple of things and how I envision the Grizzlies team looking in the future, like when I said in that 3 to 5 year range when Jaren and Ja are ready to compete for conference finals and finals. What do I think the team will look like? First of all, my vision of the Grizzlies has always been Jaren at the 5 long term. I don't know if you're going to say he's going to be the starter at the 5 from the beginning, but what I'm basically talking about here is playoff lineups, closing lineups, or whatever you want to call it. And my vision is Jaren at the 5, of course, Ja at the point. A rebounding, switchable power forward or center, however you want to define it. Somebody who can do that, next to Jaren, because you need to have somebody, because I don't anticipate Jaren ever being a positive rebounder, so we're going to have, the rest of the team be good rebounders. Ja's a pretty good rebounder for a point guard. Some of the other players we have are pretty good rebounders, especially DeAnthony Melton if they bring him back. Justice Winslow is a pretty good rebounder. So, that's going to be said. That's why I don't really think that Dylan Brooks should be long for the team, because I think he has the same weaknesses Jaren has, his propensity to foul and poor rebounding, along with the fact that he takes shots away from Jaren and Ja and whoever else would be more efficient with those possessions. But getting back to what I think they need, the number one thing I want the team to find, other than that third viable option, which everybody knows you need the third viable option that we're hoping to get in the 2021 draft, or maybe free agency coming up, or even through a trade. But that third scorer has to, I prefer it to be a wing. Obviously it could be a point guard, but it could have been a big. If it's a versatile big, that'd be fine too. Somebody, in the Bam Adebayo mode, somebody who can get you 15 to 17 points a game, playing good defense, rebounding, and protecting the rim, that would be perfectly fine. But guys like that are hard to find in the big man. But a wing scorer, which are plentiful in the 2021 draft, a wing scorer with some size, 6'6", to 6'8", with some size and heft on them, to be able to battle other bigger wings and, hopefully be able to switch on to point guards and not get obliterated by bigs. A kind of a stout wing. Of course, the ideal fit would be Cade Cunningham or, Jonathan Kuminga or, Brandon Boston or even Zaire Williams. Somebody, one of those long wings, even though Zaire and Brandon Boston are kind of thin right now, I think that they have, the length and the height to, make a difference on the boards and as weak side rim protectors. But, we're getting ahead of ourselves with the draft. I'm really just talking about basically a model of a player, somebody with some height, some length, can provide some rebounding and some, ability to switch on defense, something like that. Also, another couple of people on our roster would fit that. I guess maybe Justice Winslow would probably be one of the people that would basically fit that mold the best. If he can work out, if he can get his three-point shot together, if he can stay healthy, his ability to play on and off the ball would be big. He's got the thickness to be able to guard people. And one of the things that you have to prepare for going forward is looking at the landscape of the league. You can see you got Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is going to be a force in the league. Most likely Zion is going to be a force, especially in the Western Conference. And basically I'll deal with the Western Conference because before we even think about, winning the finals and the whole encompassing league, we got to get out of the West and have some success in the Western Conference playoffs. So Luka, you're going to have Devin Booker, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, some of the younger guys around the league, because once we get up in age, these older guys like LeBron, Kawhi, Paul George, Chris Paul, Steph Curry, those guys will kind of be fading out. And they'll probably be lower end playoff teams at best. Or they might even be on our team, how the NBA goes. So these are not the guys that we have to worry about. And also you got to look at what's coming up in the upcoming draft classes. You got a lot of long, versatile, athletic bigs coming in to the league, and a lot of skilled shooting wings coming into the league. So the one thing you don't want to scrimp on from here on out, you want to break our tradition of having non-shooters everywhere. And we want to start picking up people who can knock down the three ball because it's going to make a difference, because other teams are going to have that weapon available to them. That's why, although I don't see Dillon Brooks as a long-term answer, I don't want to be too quick to give him up because he is somebody who can knock down the three ball, more so than DeAnthony Melton or some of the other guys we have. As far as other things, my vision is Ja Morant at point guard, a backup point guard, Jaren Jackson at 5, a backup 5, and 4 to 5 interchangeable forwards and guards, interments, sprinkled around in between them, in between those four groups, those four players, depending on how deep you want to go. Most teams don't go but 7 to 8 men deep in the playoffs, so you want about 3 to 4 of those guys, to put in there, depending on what kind of big man you're going to have with Jaren Jackson. But you want to have another guy with size to be able to absorb some of the hits, because some teams, you're still going to have DeAndre Ayton in the West and Kristaps Porzingis in the West. So you're going to need some bigs also. It can't be just small ball and hope Jaren just spreads the floor, even though that would be nice. But yeah, that's kind of where I see that what we need. And I always also think what I really wanted to say is the one main thing that I really, really, really want to acquire in the next 2 to 3 years is what I've been calling ever since I saw him in his rookie year, is a Luka stopper, because he is one of the players that you're going to have to deal with, kind of like LeBron James, that you're going to have to really have a plan for. And the plan is going to have to be somebody that could really, stick him hopefully one-on-one for the most part. And you don't have to bring so much defensive attention his way, because he's so good that you're going to have to bring some. But you don't want to have to bring, so much that it just really warps and disrupts your whole entire defensive game plan in the middle of the game. This is why that I put so much value on OG Anunoby as far as a free agent target in 2021. And people kind of, buck their eyes and get real, shocked and surprised when I say, you should be prepared to offer him a max contract, because it's going to take an outrageous contract to get him out of Toronto in the first place. And now if Giannis is sitting there getting ready to re-sign in Milwaukee, they might just sign him to a contract extension, this offseason, and it might be totally off the board. But as long as he's supposedly going to be a restricted free agent, that's my number one target, OG Anunoby, because to me, he's the perfect guy to have on your team to be able to stick at small forward, play some power forward next to Jaren, or, play with Jaren and Brandon Clark, and also be able to stick, perimeter guys, any perimeter guy. He's probably the best perimeter defender in the league right now. He's got size, he's got physicality. He's not somebody that Luka's going to be able to bully on drives and things, which is kind of Luka's MO. If you can get somebody who could physically match up with him, it'll be a big difference. So that's why he's one of my targets, and that's why I like guys like Tyler Bay in the draft, a big athletic, wing that can, kind of in the future match up with Luka. Let's see, who else did I like? Jameis Ramsey. He's not as big as far as height, only being 6'4". But yeah, Jameis Ramsey, Paul Reed, Tyler Bay. Those are the kind of guys I like, that can match up with him, match up with Luka, has some size and physicality to actually match up. Because if you have guys, and this is why I'm reluctant to put another small guard, like Isaiah Joe next to Ja, even though Isaiah Joe is probably going to be a bench guy. But another small guard next to Ja, because Ja is kind of slider build, and you don't want to have your defense being warped by teams that have big, strong perimeter offensive players and bringing the wood to your guys. So guys with length, guys with some bulk, that can move their feet, that can switch and things like that. That's kind of what you need, especially a guy that, like, and the beauty of OG Anunoby for me is that he can match up with the two probably biggest threats that's going to be throughout Jaren and Ja's career, and that's in the West, and that's Luka Doncic and Zion Williamson. I mean, nobody's going to be able to stop those dudes, but he can match up with both of them. He has the size, the bulk, the footwork, to be able to match up with both of those players, and probably any other player that comes into the league that's not a big, gigantic 7-footer, So, anybody that Jaren can handle, OG should be able to handle. That's the way I look at it. So he's my number one target for free agency in 2021, and this might be a moot point come Friday if Toronto signs him to an extension after realizing, Giannis has signed a supermax with Milwaukee. But we'll see. Like I said, tomorrow I'm gonna try to do, since it's going to be right before the draft, I'm going to try to do either my big board to 40 or a mock draft to 40. I'll decide which one I'm going to do tonight. But until then, this has been Memphis X with the Where's Ja podcast. Make sure you share this to any other Grizzly fans that are out there. Make sure you like this podcast and, give it a 5-star review on iTunes if you can. And I will catch you next time.
It's just all hard. Grit, grind. Hey, turn it up.